Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing today? Post-lunch graveyard shift. How are we doing today? Are we awake? Good morning. Okay, we're awake. All right. First of all, IPPTA, thank you so much for inviting me to this brilliant congregation of fantastic thinkers, innovators, and disruptors of the paper industry of India. Before I begin today's session, this is one small ritual or a tribute I would like to do as my own salute to this industry. It was 1812 when the first paper mill was set up where? Serampore? That's my awareness. Do correct me if I'm wrong. West Bengal, Serampore, right? 210 years later, today, 2022, the Indian paper industry is recognized as the fastest growing market in the world. But it's taken 210 years for us to reach there. Regardless, may I request every single man and woman in the room to just get up for next 15 seconds. Yes. Thank you. This request is for each one of you to pay a tribute to all the amazing thinkers, disruptors, thought leaders who've come over the last 210 years before you all, including your own ancestors and generations, and really have a standing ovation for the effort that they've done over the last 200 years, as well as for yourselves. Truly commendable when I see the kind of innovation that's been happening. I've been doing a lot of research across this industry, preparing for today's talk. The kind of impact that you all have been able to create in the innovation and the growth of the market is second to none in the world today. So for that, I salute you all and really express my gratitude for contributing this impact for the world. Thank you so much. Hopefully now everyone's awake as well. All right, great. So, for any organization, I believe the true asset of the organization is the technology or the people? People, right? You all, the thought leaders of the organization. And when we talk about branding, we understand that B2B conventional industry like the paper industry, the pulp industry has always been a little behind when it comes to branding. Why don't we ask ourselves today why? Why is that? So why haven't we stood up, been vocal, been visible, been proud of the innovations that we've been leading the industry with to create the impact that we have created? Just food for thought. But today's session is not about branding the organization or the innovation. But today's session, like I said earlier, is a tribute, an ode to celebrating the people brands behind each of these brilliant, fast growth organizations in India today. So today, session, while it's titled, Branding 2.0, from an idea to a legacy, I am here to celebrate you all. And true celebration begins with three lenses of looking at yourself. A sense of self-awareness, what are we celebrating, who we are, the work we are doing, why we are doing that, and why it is absolutely worthy of being celebrated by all our peers in the industry. How are we communicating that to the world, the work that we are doing? Are we doing it intentionally, proactively, consciously, strategically? And ultimately, what is the social impact that I am contributing via my work, via my organization, onto the society as well as the nation? These are the three lenses with which I like to celebrate amazing thinkers like you all. Those three lenses I lovingly call as your spiritual thought leadership, your reason why you do what you do, your strategic thought leadership, how you communicate why you do what you do to the world, and your social thought leadership, what level of impact you are creating via your work. All right? So these are the three lenses with which we are going to look at the journey of building, growing, and celebrating each one of you as future thought leaders of your industry. Can you help me with whatever tech issues are going on over here? Thank you. Is there a connection problem? Because the screens are going blank. Thank you. All right. What is life without tech glitches, right? Even after 2 years of being hopefully virtual masters of using technology, how many of you all still struggle with technology? Every one of us, including me. So, it is what it is. All right. Let us start talking about the most important asset of our businesses, our organizations, and our legacies, us. What do you mean by spiritual thought leadership as a part of your personal brand? For me, when I talk about your personal brand as an individual, as a thinker, as an entrepreneur, as a thought leader, it goes hand in hand with spirituality, because your personal brand expression of who you are, your ideas, your vision cannot be separated from spirituality and self-awareness of who you are as an individual, as a human being on this journey of life and leadership naturally. So we'll understand today, why am I talking about a philosophy like spirituality when it comes to branding? And we will understand what is the role that the two most used words in an Indian Vedic parlance called your brand dharma and your brand karma play an important role in the work that we do while creating the impact that we are creating. And finally, how do we create a legacy that outlives us for another 25,000 days beyond our life? Now, how did I come up with something like this? You might be wondering that why is she even equating to diverse polar things like spirituality and branding perhaps? It was the middle of the pandemic, May 2020. It was my first exposure to the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. How many of you all have read or learned Bhagavad Gita? Loud and proud. Still less than 10% in the room. How many of you all desire to learn Bhagavad Gita? Still less than 10% in the room. That was my first exposure to Bhagavad Gita and of course the teachings of Krishna. When I sat down in meditation one day and started processing everything that I was learning, trying to equate the lessons and insights from the works of Bhagavad Gita to the work that I do today and find parallels. So in that deep meditation, I allowed myself to surrender to my consciousness and became an observer. I took a back seat and I became an observer to my own thoughts. You know, something magical happened to me for the very first time in my life in that meditation, when I was trying to contemplate on my own understanding of what I was learning from Bhagavad Gita. Two streams of consciousness emerged for me. We all know what Bhagavad Gita is all about, correct? So when I took a back seat and I allowed myself to be just an observer and not a participant, two streams of consciousness emerged in my psyche, the Arjuna consciousness and the Krishna consciousness, and started having a dialogue with each other. And what I'm going to share with you all now are those 7 deeply profound lessons that I was given as a gift, as a part of that observation of a conversation between the Arjuna and the Krishna consciousness in my own head during that meditation. So, what can we learn about the process of personal brand management, being known as a thought leader in your industry from the lens of Bhagavad Gita and the teachings of Krishna, and how do we live a truly rich human life? Lesson number 1, what I learned, and this is my gift to you all, because I think all of us should look at Bhagavad Gita from the lens of spiritual thought leadership and what we can employ from that powerful treaty in our own lives and journeys of leadership and personal and professional excellence. I deeply believe that your brand reputation today is because of your brand karma, all the work that you do. your brand legacy becomes the effect of your brand dharma. We all understand dharma and karma, correct? Now, karma is known as the actions that we do, the way we live our life, the good, bad, ugly, and we understand that we need to transcend all our karma to attain moksha, correct? Karma can be known as black and white, but now it gets very interesting when you look at life from the lens of dharma, because unlike karma, it is not black or white. Your own dharma is your own lens of spiritual maturity with which you look at life. It can be understood as righteousness in the work that you do, the whys of the work that you do, but there is a certain gray area involved because it's a subjective perspective depending on your lens of spiritual maturity for why you do what you do. And that is why the most important lesson that we need to first understand is that yes, the karma that I do, conscious actions that I take will have an impact on my reputation. But the dharma with which I execute those actions consciously for the rest of my life will be remembered, loved, and celebrated as my own legacy that I'm going to leave behind. Let us understand what is the role of our human lives that we are in today and why we're even talking about something like legacy, because when we don't even think about legacies in our normal day-to-day lives from a personal perspective, we look at organizational legacies, correct? 20, 50, 30 years of legacies that our organizations have built before us. But we never look at our personal legacies. Why? Why don't we look at our personal legacies? Look at the legacies of the icons and legends like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Steve Jobs, who've come before and disrupted the world, challenged the status quo and made the world a better place. While we are doing the same in our own respective rights, in our own universe, why aren't we considering it as our own personal legacy that we should be aware of and consciously building with the right lens of brand dharma and karma? Let's ask ourselves 7 questions that Arjuna consciousness, in that moment of meditation, asked Krishna consciousness to understand the purpose of human life and the art of spiritual thought leadership awareness to build your personal brand and your legacy as an innovator, visionary thinker, leader, whatever you want to be known as in your industries. So lesson 1, which I want to share with you all today is, what is the purpose of a human life? For me, the purpose of a human life is simple: to add value to the collective consciousness of humanity. We all are born time and again in multiple incarnations with one sole purpose: to enrich the collective consciousness of humanity, especially in an era like this where we are transiting from the Kali Yuga to the Satyuga, where the whole vibration and consciousness of the planet is rising. We are here to influence the rays in that consciousness of the planet via the work that we are doing. Now, it doesn't matter if you're enriching the collective human consciousness as an entrepreneur, CEO, homemaker, doctor, artist, poet, or a government official. You have a spiritual responsibility to contribute to the collective consciousness of the planet and leave it richer than the way you found it when you were incarnated. That is the most important dharma that you have today as a human being. Lesson number 2, we often probably wonder, maybe we don't acknowledge, what is the essence of our soul? For me, the essence of your soul is nothing but a beautiful microcosm or an extension of the creator consciousness, the universe, which is having a very beautiful human existence today. And it's a blink and a miss existence, right? 70 odd years or approximately 25,000 days to live in this beautiful human life that we have. Now, metaphorically, if I have to equate the soul of a human being to the soul of your personal brand, I like to think of it as the journey that you undertake of an obsession to learn something, to master something, and to leave something behind. So the journey of your personal evolution to enrich yourself with a topic, an idea, a theme, a subject that fascinates you, that makes you selfishly happy, to learn and to even teach. That is the soul of your personal brand. To enrich yourself with a subject matter, to express what you've learned with your industry, and ultimately to evolve yourself personally, professionally, and spiritually, ensuring that you are staying selfish about your own personal growth and mastery, and at the same time selfless about paying it forward to enrich the next generation of leaders in your industry. That is the soul of your personal brand. And how you do justice to staying committed to that purpose of not only learning, but paying it forward to the next generation with everything that you've learned becomes your dharma as well. Lesson number 3. Perhaps this is one of the most profound lessons I learned as my study of the scriptures of Bhagavad Gita. What is the biggest weakness, or what are the biggest weaknesses we have as human beings? I believe the biggest weakness we have as a human being today at a level of self-awareness is twofold. One, we have forgotten the true origins of our soul, who we really are as a fragment of the cosmic consciousness having a human existence. The veil of illusion helps us forget it. And at the same time, because of that forgetfulness, we are bound to the karmic laws of life. How many of you all have experienced karma in your life? The good one or the bad one? The good one, right? So, we human beings on this planet are bound by karmic laws since the beginning of time and the end of time. But only when once we are able to transcend those laws of karma by remembering that we are here for a purpose, to live our life consciously building good karma with our spiritual navigating system of righteousness, which is our dharma. Only then we will be able to do justice to the purpose of our life, of every birth again and again and again. That clarity with which you are born has to be remembered. The veil of forgetfulness has to be transcendent for you to truly step into the purpose of your life. The realization of your divinity, and that you have the potential to transcend karma by being conscious about your dharma will help you with self-awareness and self-expression in your journey of life and leadership both. Lesson number 5. What is your brand dharma? We all understand dharma as the righteousness or the ethical, moral, humane way of living our life. But for me, your brand dharma is nothing but your commitment to live your life, to commit to the genesis of your thought leadership, unlike anyone else. What is thought leadership? For me, thought leadership is you as an individual, as a leader in your own right. Commit to personal awareness, personal excellence for professional mastery of your career and industry that leads to the greater social good. In our own unique ways, whether you're looking at micro impact or a macro impact, it should not matter. But when you look at your life through the lens of dharma, with a sense of ethical commitment to your do's and don'ts, to the rights and wrongs, and then go and execute on the karma of your life, personally, professionally, and spiritually, that is when you live your life as the teachings of Krishna implore you to. Lesson number 5. What is the meaning of karma yoga? This is a very powerful question that Arjuna had asked Krishna, if you remember, in Bhagavad Gita. What is karma yoga and how do you manifest karma yoga via the work that you do? Karma yoga, for me, when I have to equate it to this modern world that we live in today, is your ability to detach yourself from the expectation of praise or profits for the value that you are creating. It's to detach yourself from the joys or the disappointments or the feedback that you may get for your work. And it's to detach yourself from any potential outcome, but continue doing your dharma to offer value to the ecosystem that you are a part of. When you are able to emotionally and spiritually detach yourself from the final outcome and the benefits of those outcomes, that is when you can manifest karma yoga in your life. And that is an extremely important trait of a true thought leader, to detach yet to be committed to value creation in your own life and journeys of leadership. The ability to transcend yourself. Now, over here, self is an acronym, and I'll tell you what it is in just a moment. But the ability to transcend yourself while being committed to being the best possible version of yourself as a human being is the hallmark or the secret of a karma yogi in today's day and world. It doesn't mean you renunciate life. It means you be an integral part of the society. Do your dharma with a sense of detachment, but not detached to the purpose of your life, detached only to the outcome of your efforts. Lesson number 6. What does transcendence mean? And when does it really begin in your journey of leadership? Transcendence is both personal, professional, and ultimately spiritual. For me, true transcendence means outgrowth. Begins when you are able to detach yourself from the illusions of Maya that we live our lives in. You all understand what is Maya? Yes? But from the lens of personal transcendence, for any individual, there are 4 forms of Maya that entraps them, which doesn't let them transcend their own power. And when I say transcend yourself, self itself over here is an acronym. As human beings, if we want to transcend Maya and unleash the power that we are born with, we have to transcend 4 elements of that Maya, or 4 types of manifestations of that Maya in this human life, to build ourselves as true leaders of humanity. You need to transcend your illusions of fear. You need to transcend your illusions of limits that you have as a human being. You need to transcend the veil or the lens of ego with which you live your life. And you need to transcend the entrapments or prisons of the social shame or the judgment or the critique that we are so scared of as human beings, that we don't allow ourselves to do 98% of the things that we want to do in our lives. When you transcend the social shame, the lens of ego, the illusions of self-imposed limits, and vanquish the fear that holds us back, that is when you transcend yourself and you stay committed to your own dharma and karma in such a way that you become the most dangerous person in the room. Because nothing can affect you, nothing can shake you. That's the spiritual strength that you have inculcated in yourself. And no, it does not happen overnight. It's a journey. Transcendence is a journey of personal excellence fueled by your personal awareness and commitment to transcend these things. Lesson number 7. Many times I get people who ask me, Tanvi, it sounds very poetic to think about these things, but is it practical? What if I don't want to rise to thought leadership? What if I'm happy and content in the journey that I have in my life today? No worries. We are blessed with free will as human beings. But at the same time, let me remind you, we human beings are on this planet visiting for a brief stint of 25,000 days, give or take a few years or days for each one of us. Do you want to be a visitor for just 25,000 days? Or do you want to build your identity, your legacy, and your impact that will outlive you for another 25,000 days? Because believe me, if any point of time in your life there has been an idea, a point of inspiration that has moved your soul, you've been blessed with that idea because it was a part of your spiritual destiny to manifest that, to create something that will outlive you. And if you've not done justice to that, if you've not heard the calling of that soul that we all have at one point of time in our life, that is why we say it's the calling for all of us, for the work that we do is a calling. If we don't pay attention to that, we are going to be caught in this karmic cycles, because your soul, every time it is born, comes with a spiritual destiny it is here to manifest and realize. To do what? To enrich the collective human consciousness. The soul's journey, fortunately or unfortunately, because it's governed by karma, is to outgrow itself, is to evolve itself, and it's to completely add value with every birth. So these are the 7 most important lessons I learned about the concept of spiritual thought leadership and the role it plays in every human being's life to build yourself, your identity, your career, your business, your legacy that has a potential to truly outlive you. And only when a deep sense of self-awareness from the lens with which we look at our lives and we live our lives, the lenses of brand, dharma and karma, when you are in alignment with that, you will be able to do justice to your fullest potential, to build your brand, to build your businesses, and to leave behind a legacy that truly outlives each one of us. That is the power of spiritual thought leadership in your journey of personal brand growth. That's all about introspection and self-awareness. The second element of strategic thought leadership for any leader today is, after having that deep introspection and self-awareness, how do I communicate that to the world that I'm a part of? How do I make it a tangible value creation that will not only help me stay aligned to my life purpose, execute my karma and dharma to the best of my abilities? So what is a strategy that global thought leaders, business owners, empire builders, disruptors, change makers adopt in the modern world today to not only take an idea to a legacy, but really have a larger than life impact in their ecosystems via the work that they do? How do they become more visible, more vocal and more valuable? For this, I went to understand the art of strategic thinking from the guru of strategic thinking, none other than Chanakya. Chanakya gifted us the philosophy of Anvikshiki. Are we aware of Anvikshiki? Have you ever heard of this word Anvikshiki? It's a Sanskrit word. It means the art of strategic thinking or self-inquiry. Unfortunately, when today we look at our modern civilization, we hail from the lands of Krishna and Chanakya, both profound thinkers. But in the modern education system that we have today, the modern corporate world we have today, we are seldom taught how to think strategically as a part of our formative education. So it becomes our spiritual responsibility to re-educate ourselves on how to think strategically. And that is where the study of the subject of Anvikshiki steps in. Now what I did was, I learned the subject of Anvikshiki, the art of strategic thinking, on how do you take your ideas to impact and to a legacy, and created a brand new model around it called Tanvikshiki. Fortunately, it was very easy for me to do that because let's add it T over there, and it became a very well branded philosophy for me. From Anvikshiki, I was able to birth something I call Tanvikshiki as my own thought leadership to help amazing thinkers, visionaries, and futurist entrepreneurs like you all to adopt the art of strategic thinking for building your personal brand. Let us understand what is it that strategic thought leadership in action looks like for an entrepreneur to build their personal brand identity, reputation, and legacy as a change maker, disruptor, and the visionary leader that he is. There are 7 roles every leader must play in his or her journey of thought leadership, branding, and marketing for the work that they are doing. The first role is he has to learn how to think differently. not only about his personal growth and transcendence, but the professional impact he's making onto the lives of people around him in the industry and at a society and the spiritual fabric of the humanity on the whole. Start thinking differently. Start thinking like a thought leader and not just a leader. So that's the first role you have to do as a thought leader in your industries. What is it that I can build, create, transform that nobody else is thinking or doing in my industry? Because I understand my industry so well. Start asking these questions to yourself. Role number 2, be a philosopher. We all have diverse schools of thoughts that we are passionate about, that we learn from. Go and tap into all those diverse schools of thoughts, knowledge and wisdom to create a brand new way of looking at a problem or an opportunity in your industry and come up with an idea that you believe will disrupt the status quo. This is what thought leaders do differently. They are obsessed about disrupting the status quo and co-creating the future. Step number 3, you have to learn how to identify a challenge in the industry and position your big idea that you're coming up with, that you think and believe deeply will disrupt the status quo. What is that lacune or the challenge in your industry which you have to identify and communicate to your industry every single day in multiple ways and forms on platforms both online and offline, that this is how your big idea, your vision is going to disrupt the status quo. Once you've identified the challenge and positioned your idea as the next big thing for the industry to adopt, to evolve and reinvent itself, it becomes your responsibility to adopt the step 4, which is be a creator. How will people experience your idea in action? Ask yourself, what kind of products, services, platforms, initiatives, campaigns, conversations I need to, in my own personal, professional and human capacity, lead inside my organization as well as across my industry to help people experience this idea that I am evangelizing. Be a creator of a vision that will help people experience your idea in different formats, modalities and mediums. Step number 5, as a thought leader, you have to do is don the hat of a strategist and ask yourself, if this is my idea, how am I going to convert it into a message, to a movement and a legacy over the next 5 years of my personal and professional life that will ensure that every person who I believe will be directly or indirectly benefited with my idea and my vision is aware of that. How will I take an idea to scale, not only in my organization, but my industry and across the world? Be a strategist who's focused on scalability and reinvention of the industry with this model of taking an idea to a message, to a movement and ultimately a legacy over the next 10 to 20 years of time frame when you're looking at disrupting your industry. Step number 6, once you've strategized the way forward, every thought leader must become a teacher. Every thought leader is an educator, is a champion of his ideas, where he is a self-proclaimed enthusiast and ambassador for that idea of change and transformation that he wants the world to adopt. Write, speak, influence your audience on platforms like these inside the organization as well as on online platforms to help give a larger platform and amplification to your ideas, especially at a sensitive time and point in your industry today where there are more misconceptions about the industry than the facts and figures which the common man is aware of. It becomes your responsibility to be the evangelist of your ideas in times like these. And finally, when you do these things consciously, proactively and strategically for a prolonged period of time, you will be able to elevate your personal brand as an advisor or the ultimate authority in your industry. You will be able to guide and navigate the future leaders of your industry to do justice in building or reinventing the industry's identity, image, reputation and ultimately the legacy. Remember, right from Chanakya's era even today, king makers are more valuable than kings? Ask yourself, am I just a king, or do I want to elevate myself and my impact as a king maker in this industry? So with that deep level of self-awareness, the deep understanding of strategic communication and actions that you should be adopting in your own respective lives and businesses, let us now understand the third element of thought leadership, which is a social thought leadership. With awareness and communication, you are now ready to make an impact in your industry that will reinvent the way people perceive the work that you're doing, as well as the impact you're making not only on the financial ecosystem, the market growth and development, but the social ecosystem, the conservation of the resources also, or creation or recreation of the resources that you're doing. For that, I like to think of this whole journey as a cause-driven strategy that you should be looking at adopting while you want to communicate the work that you do. I'm going to share some brilliant case studies and examples with you all of people who've adopted cause-driven branding and marketing to make the industry aware of certain problems that they are solving, or problems that need to be solved as an industry that comes together, and how to leverage the power of social media today to give voice to your ideas. Let us see some powerful case studies that are relevant to your industry, which I personally found extremely instrumental and inspirational for you to possibly learn something from and go back and figure out a way, how can I try to implement something like this in my organization and of course at an industry level scale. The first example that I want to share with you all is of this industry body in US, akin to what we have over here, called Paper and Packaging Board. How they launched this campaign called How Life Unfolds in 2015. Has anyone seen this campaign? This is pure thought leadership and communication of what the industry is all about. As industry insiders, I'm curious to know, have you all seen this campaign before? Let us have a look at it.
We're serving Mother Earth, the chicks to get to. We're recycling for life, see that's all that we do. Paper, it comes from nature, there's nothing greater. No need for haters, we'll deal with them all later. When we harvest the wood, we're thinking outside the box. Planning notably more, kind of slide like a fox when produced and made in the US of A. Sometimes it's portrayed in a negative way. They want us to leave, but we'll never fall. Choosing paper for nature, we're ahead of y'all.
This campaign was launched in 2015 and it was promoted for 4 years across the world to reinvent the way people experience and feel about the paper industry. And after 4 years, it was a multi-million-dollar campaign, by the way, initiated by the organization. They found, when they researched what kind of sentiment shift has happened in people related to consumption of paper and paper products, packaging, etc., there was a significant shift of 75% pro-paper consumption than it was 4 years ago. This is a beautiful example of creativity, fun, youthfulness can be infused by an organization or an industry body to reinvent the way people perceive your industry. This is just one of the examples to showcase the importance or the impact that you all are having as an industry onto the ecosystem that you all are part of. Second, which is a slightly offbeat kind of an example, but bear with me, is to actually help you understand that as an industry, your biggest nemesis or rival is which industry? Plastics, correct? Plastics. Check out this campaign and tell me how this campaign makes you feel, or how it makes you really explore the possibilities of taking on to that nemesis kind of an industry in a fun, powerful yet impactful way. Let's check this out.
Here at Lad Bible, we've come to a decision. We're going to start our own country. Seems a bit ridiculous. Well, it's about to get more so. There's been a huge mucking issue growing over the last 20 years that everyone has conveniently turned a blind eye to. Plastic waste. 8 million tons of plastic get dumped into our oceans every year. There is so much of it that in the North Pacific, there is now an area of trash the size of France. With no one doing anything about this country-sized problem, we thought we would by turning it into an official one. So welcome to the Trash Isles. We teamed up with the Plastic Ocean Foundation, and on World Oceans Day, we submitted a Declaration of Independence to the United Nations to seek recognition of the Trash Isles as an official country. If we can make it a country, we are protected by the UN's Environmental Charter, which states, all members shall cooperate in a spirit of global partnership to conserve, protect, and restore the health and integrity of the Earth's ecosystem. Which essentially means, by becoming a country, others are obliged to clean us up. We only have 4 criteria we need to hit for the UN to recognise the Trash Isles. We need to be able to define a territory. Check. Form a government. Check. Be capable of interacting with others. Check. And lastly, we need a population, which is where you lot step in. Your signatures on our petition will help force the UN to approve our application. Become a citizen of the Trash Isles today and help ensure the world's first country made of trash is its last.
Brilliant idea to showcase the huge looming problem in the world today. You won't believe this campaign was felicitated with 8 awards at Cannes, called Lion Awards, Gold Lion Awards, I believe. 8 awards, because it really helped the world to wake up to a huge problem which it's battling with, called plastics. What can you all do in your own organizations as well as micro ecosystems across the industry to stand up, speak up, adopt this cause, and lead this fight, or the so-called war against the consumption of something that is truly detrimental to our planet? Because you're helping them do something better. Ask yourself, how can we do something on these lines to raise more awareness, adopt thought leadership as a branding and communication strategy for the work we are doing, and more and more people, and get more and more people to be aware of the benefits of, naturally, paper over plastic. And finally, the third, and I was delighted to find this example, is by an Indian organization called Trident. Anyone from Trident over here? No? That's tragedy. Have you all seen this campaign by Trident called The Good Paper? Yes? If not, y'all are here for a treat. I love the messaging that they've come up with.
प्रिया ने आज एक खूबसूरत तस्वीर बनाई, मगर कुछ और भी किया, इस तस्वीर से कहीं ज़्यादा खूबसूरत। प्रिया के ट्राइडेंट पेपर यूज़ करने से दूर गांव में सुरजन जैसे किसान की कमाई बढ़ती है और वो अपनी बेटी के लिए उसकी मनपसंद गुड़िया खरीद सकता है। ट्राइडेंट पेपर बनता है खेतों में बचे हुए वीट स्ट्रॉ से, जिसकी वजह से 1 लाख से भी ज़्यादा किसानों को मिलती है एक्स्ट्रा आमदनी। 5000 पेड़ कटने से बचते हैं हर रोज़ और कम होता है कार्बन एमिशन। प्रिया तो सिर्फ 5 साल की है, ये सब नहीं समझती, मगर अब आप तो समझते हैं।
I feel so proud to see an Indian organization do this already. So it just makes me wonder, why aren't more visionary thought leaders like you all using the power of branding, marketing, cause-driven communication to showcase to the world what your organization stands for, what you stand for as a visionary leader behind your organization? Because let's face it, today more than ever, your industry needs you, your organization needs you, because the legacy that you would end up creating should have a tribute to you as second, third, fourth generation entrepreneur behind the successful business that you've built, the one who disrupted your industry. Be that face and name for your organization as well as industry, so that every single person that comes after you as a part of this brilliant industry is not only inspired by you, but actually cites you as an example for the work that they end up doing a decade or two down the line. And finally, the last point I would like to leave you all today with is change the narrative. How you perceive yourself, the work that you do as an entrepreneur as well as a business. Because this powerful example, if you see over here, and I reviewed at least 20 organizations online on how they position themselves and the work that they do, the impact that they are making. This is the one that stood out to me, including a lot of Indian players. Look at what they say. We transform renewable resources into recyclable products that people depend on every day. Change the narrative on the work that you're doing and the impact that you're making via your business at an ecological level and of course, economic level eventually. That is my parting message to you all. So the whole journey that I took you all through today, right from self-awareness to your adherence or alignment with your spiritual thought leadership, to exploring strategic thought leadership and the way you communicate the work that you do across the world, all should filter down to you standing for a cause that you believe your organization is best suited to lead and evangelize, and you become the brand ambassador for that cause, to adopt or to usher in a brand new perception and legacy for the entire industry, not just your organization. That is my parting message to you all. Take that initiative today as the visionary thinker and the industry disruptor that you already are, but now the world also needs to know that and discover that about you. So every single one of them, like we did today, can celebrate each one of you, not in a room of 350 people, but on a global platform, perhaps like LinkedIn, right? In front of 350,000 people who are celebrating the brand called International Paper. They have 350,000 followers, the largest on a social media platform like LinkedIn. And if today, as entrepreneurs who believe that we've been a conventional industry and LinkedIn or social media is not for us, reevaluate that decision. Digital first generation and business is you. You have to adopt the power of social if you are interested in making a social impact. If you're interested in reinventing the perception of your industry and your business. A platform like LinkedIn, considered as the foremost professional networking platform in the world today, is non-negotiable if you're interested in boosting the visibility of your brand, your business, and the impact that you're making. If you're interested in contributing to conversations like this organization is doing with 350,000 people hooked to every word and every action that they are taking to reinvent the industry. If you're interested in the virality of the work that you're doing to amplify the impact that not only 350 people in the room should know what is happening in the industry, but probably 500,000 people in the world across the paper industry should know how you are employing the creative agency or the thought leadership that you are gifted with in creating innovations inside the organization and across the industry, not only for ecological impact and transformation, but an economic growth for your business as well as the nation at the end of the day. Those are my parting words to you all. Thank you so much for being such a fabulous and attentive audience.